Burying vines is a great way to increase the number of roots that you have on your pumpkin plant. If I lift up this vine, you'll see a little bit of white right underneath where that flower is, and that's a root that's about to develop. Now, if you look on the top, you'll also see a little white nub on the top of the root, and that's another root that can possibly form. And if you cover that white area with dirt, it will actually form a root. Double the roots means double the amount of help your pumpkin will get to getting bigger. So here you can see a root that has formed underneath the vine. That is called an adventitious root. That one is huge, and that formed all by itself. Now I'm gonna cover it back up because that's how it was before I disturbed it. You can see bottom root down here, and that guy right there, that white dot, that is another adventitious root that will form if you cover it up with dirt. Here I have my vine, and the first thing I'm gonna do is prune it, which I discussed in a separate video, so I won't go crazy explaining it, but basically I'm gonna cut off the tendril and I'm gonna pinch off the secondary vine. So I'm gonna do that down the whole vine, and then once we're done with that, we'll get it buried. This is pretty simple. I'm a little behind, and if you'll notice here, the root is already established in the ground there, so I'm not gonna go further back than where that is because there's no point messing up what's already established. So the few further back aren't actually gonna get buried, but from there on, all I'm gonna do is dig a little bit of a trench. I'm gonna have to move back a little bit. Dig that trench, lay it down in the trench, and then just put that dirt back on. Now here there's a little flower. I'm gonna let that have some sunlight so it can peek out and not get smothered. And I'm just gonna bury the vine, let those little flowers stick out, and that's it. You can see here I've extended the trenches out beyond the plant. That way I don't have to do as much work next time. They're gonna grow right down through those trenches, and I can just lay the dirt over them. If you want to take your vine burying to the next level, I would recommend starting by adding some biological products. These are the two that I like, and these are the two most commonly used by other professional growers. The first over here is mycorrhizae. I like Ron Wallace's mycorrhizae. He's a giant pumpkin grower, and I like supporting his business. Mycorrhizae is a beneficial fungus that forms a symbiotic relationship with the plant's roots, and the plant actually secretes waste products that the mycorrhizae likes. And what the mycorrhizae does is it has these things called hyphae, which are kind of like little filaments that extend beyond the root system, and it helps draw in water and nutrients for the plant. It also helps convert phosphorus in the soil to a usable form for the plant. Now the one over here in the black bag is called Azos. That is a nitrogen fixing bacteria. So there's lots of forms of nitrogen in the environment, but not all forms of nitrogen can be used by the plant. What Azos does is it converts atmospheric nitrogen into ammonium, and ammonium is one of the forms that the plant can use. The other thing Azos does is it helps increase the production of a natural plant hormone called IAA. This helps with cell division, increasing growth rates, and helping with plant and root development. So what I do is I have this old protein powder container, and I've turned it into a little container to put my powders in. So what I do is I mix both the Azos and the mycorrhizae together. I try to do just enough for each session of vine burying. I don't like to keep them mixed together for too long. Even though they're kind of dormant in their dry state, I like to keep them separated until I'm about to use it. So I combine them both together. I actually have the scoop from my protein powder, and I'm going to use this while vine burying. Here I have my vine in the trench, and before I bury it with soil, I'm just going to sprinkle some of my mix on each area. I'm kind of OCD, I like to kind of mix it in a little bit, but you do want the powder to get in contact with the root system, so don't mix it in too much. And then once you have your powder in there, then you can cover it with your soil. Here you can see on one of my pumpkin plants, one of the roots that has formed on the top of the vine and then has gone down into the soil. I use a different method in my pumpkin plant. You can see there's a pot on top of the vine, and I do that just because I don't have to bury the vines completely and it makes less of a chance of it rotting. Honestly, most growers, probably 99% of giant pumpkin growers, completely bury their vines without any issues. I just like to make my life more difficult. So I would recommend the method of burying vines that I show you with my marrow.